Have you ever sat down to write and somehow ended up scrolling socials, checking email, or watching a video about pandas for 45 minutes? And the worst is you don't even know how you got there. One minute you were opening your manuscript because you were definitely going to work on it. And the next, you're 12 tabs deep comparing candles on Etsy and shopping for clothes from an Instagram ad and seeing news that makes you want to cringe. Well, settle in because I recently read this book, Stolen Focus by Johann Hari. And let me tell you, this book cracked open why it feels harder than ever to focus on creative work, such as writing a book or reading one, which is tragic. And this book caught my attention precisely because I have felt for a while now that I had none. I need you to get a little angry about what I'm about to say. Distraction isn't a flaw, it's a business model. Big tech profits every time you don't write. This episode was intended for writers, but it's for humans because what this book taught me is it's not our fault. Our attention is in fact being stolen by design, and the good news is we can steal it back. Okay, we all know that writing a book requires depth. You have to focus long enough to build a world, track characters, revise drafts. Then, after you publish, you need to be laser focused on marketing and promotion, and for some of you, building a whole author brand. But we're living in a culture that constantly pulls us to the surface. Hari writes, what we are sacrificing is depth. Depth is in relationships, in thoughts, in creativity. And authors, they live in the deep end, or at least they're supposed to. Even our readers, myself included, are struggling. When I look at my Goodreads tracker, for example, I am shocked by the decline in my ability to read, at least like I used to. And for me, it started around the pandemic, which makes sense because for most of us, that's when our screen use surged. I thought it was just me, but come to find out, Stolen Focus details how researchers have found that people are losing their ability to read long text. Why? Because our brains are adapting to screen-based skimming, which is what we do when we read on the internet. We skim, we skim, we skim. And that's bad news for novelists and nonfiction writers. Another reason, as I'm sure you can relate, we can't go a few minutes without someone trying to get our attention, whether it's a coworker, the boss, your spouse, your kids, the news, spam callers, the doctor's office, every store asking you to leave a review. My God. And by the way, the solution isn't chucking away all your devices. In the beginning of the book, the author leaves behind his smartphone, smartwatch, and computer and forces himself to exile in a cabin somewhere with a pile of books. He's there to reclaim his focus. Great. Unfortunately, not everyone can just disappear for 3 months and completely cut themselves off like that. Hari knows this, which is why after 3 months, he then embarks on a journey to find out what the heck is going on with our attention. Here's the problem. Like yours truly, most of you think you can multitask, but that term came from computer science, not psychology. It's from when computers were given additional processors to process more tasks at once. Our brains are not designed for it unless it's like breathing and sleeping, which by all means. What we're actually doing is task switching, and we do it so quickly that we give ourselves the illusion that we're multitasking. We're not. Here's what happens when you switch tasks constantly. Okay. There is the switch cost. Your brain has to reorient every time you check your phone. So if you were in the middle of a chapter or a good scene or making a marketing plan for your book, guess what? You've stalled, and now it will take longer to get back to what you were doing. You also have the screw up effect. You make more mistakes like forgetting a subplot or a plot hole. You get typos, forgetting to save, spilling coffee all over your laptop, and on and on. You have creativity drain. You're less innovative. You're mentally exhausted. You are stuck. You don't know how to move a scene forward. And last, you get memory fade. You remember less of what you just did. You can't even recall what you wrote 6 chapters back to keep everything cohesive. Research indicates that most of us are distracted every 3 minutes. Even Fortune 500 CEOs only get 28 minutes a day of uninterrupted time. A CEO with assistants and help at home only has 28 minutes. What chance do the rest of us have? Okay. Let's not despair. Let's keep going. Here's the part that really broke it down for me in terms of attention categories, which I love. There's this former Google strategist, James Williams, who was interviewed in Stolen Focus, and he breaks it into 3 types. You got your spotlight, your immediate focus, like writing a specific paragraph. You've got your starlight, your long-term goal, like finish your book. You got your daylight, the awareness of why you write at all. If we lose our daylight, we don't just lose the focus, we lose ourselves, because then we chase validation. We stop creating what matters. We scroll, we skim. And here's a devastating quote. If you're losing all three lights, you're not just distracted, you're disconnected from your identity as a writer. And that's not okay. There's also a bonus type, what Hari calls the stadium light, our shared attention, author community, the collective, and that's fractured too. As a culture, we're struggling to hold collective focus. But again, we can fix it. So let's talk about your ideal state. The state that is and should be natural for us, flow. Flow is that magical feeling where you lose track of time, your coffee gets cold, you don't even care. I don't know about you, but I can only achieve this when I am focused on one task. If you check email between every paragraph, your brain never gets into flow. And stolen focus identifies three components to achieve flow, meaning before you sit down to do the thing. It has a clear goal, it's meaningful to you, it's challenging but not overwhelming. Flow is where writing gets good, and you can't multitask your way into flow. You can't multitask your way into flow. And to find it, you need to choose a single goal, make sure it's meaningful to you, and try to push yourself to the edge of your ability. That means not too easy, but not so hard that we're on the struggle bus. And guess what? Books are one of the last reliable paths into flow, yet sadly we're reading less. It is a fact that reading on screen trains our brains to skim, and that bleeds into our reading habits, making it harder to tackle long text. Next time you read an article online, notice how you're reading it. Notice how we are conditioned to receive content in small bursts like on TikTok or Reels, so that we keep swiping to the next thing quickly. All of that is training your brain, and not in a good way. And do you know another reason this really matters? Fiction especially builds empathy. It's kind of a mental simulation. A good novel makes you imagine life from someone else's eyes. The book calls it a kind of empathy gym, helping you empathize with other people, which is rich and a precious form of focus. So this lost focus is not only harming you as a writer, it's harming readers and it's harming us as a society. And here's another one. Are you ready? Daydreaming. Let's debunk something right now. Daydreaming is not a lack of focus. We've been trained to think mind wandering is lazy. We get into trouble at school for it or yell at our own kids for doing it sometimes. But Hari shows it's actually a critical form of focus. When your mind drifts, it does these things. It connects ideas. I get my best ideas when I'm wandering. Like it helps you reflect on the past. It imagines your future. I get so much clearer on what I want when I do that. And you know this, creativity means making associations, and mind wandering is the playground for that. So as writers, you should be leaving ample space for daydreaming. It's so important. Schedule it if you have to. Okay, I hope you were focused enough through all of that. That was a lot of information. Here are some strategies I've started teaching my authors, and you can use them too. 1, pre-commitment. It works. Use blockers like Freedom or Forest app during writing sessions. Commit ahead of time to the thing you're about to do. 2, ritualize your writing. Light a candle, put on a playlist, use the same chair. Just like we condition animals through scent, sounds, and objects, you can over time condition yourself to focus. If you live with other people, tell them. For example, if you see my door closed, please don't interrupt because I am writing. I used to have a client that only wrote with a particular sweater on. So even if she got up to get a drink from the kitchen in the middle of her writing, her family knew not to talk to her. 3, prioritize sleep. Screens off 2 hours before bed. You can't focus if you're tired. I'm sorry. I know you hate this, but do it because prioritizing sleep is a huge part of your author toolkit. And 4, honor your spotlight. What does that mean? One thing at a time. No exceptions. Also, stop shaming yourself for getting distracted. Instead, ask yourself, what could help me get into a flow state right now? And you'd be surprised what you come up with. You are not broken. Our environment is making it really hard to create. So reclaim your focus, create boundaries, give yourself the gift of flow. If you want to help build a system that protects your attention and moves you toward a finished book, I'd love to have you in the Strategic Author. That's my new 12-week author program, where every week I hold you accountable to your goals. We measure progress, we pivot when needed, and we double down on what's working. I've linked the course in the description, of course. Spots are limited. I only open that a few times a year. And if you want my free 7-day Reclaim Your Focus challenge, that is also linked below. I highly recommend you try it. Remember, choose deep over dopamine and choose the story over the scroll. Thanks for listening, and I will see you next time.